Just go.
All right, we are live, and guess what? The name of this video is going to be "You Are Married Now What."
Ooh.
So yes, we are talking about newlyweds. We are trying to give them advice or what we have learned, what we have seen, what we have experienced as a married couple for how many years, Francis?
16 years?
16 years?
I think so. 25 together, though.
So we have some experience in this realm, this topic, and we want to share our advice to anyone out there. Of course, we've been to several weddings so far this year.
Yeah.
And of course, culminating
So much fun.
last week or about 8 days ago with Lexi's wedding. Our wonderful, beautiful daughter, Lexi and Lee, got married. So we were just thinking of what kind of a cool video we could do on our family channel that talks about marriage and that encourages newlyweds to live the best and most wonderful married life. I have to say, I grew up not caring about getting married, not really knowing if I wanted to get married. That's a nice way to say it. But as a married man, I'm very, very happy, and I feel incredibly blessed. And I do think marriage is something everyone should aspire to.
Yeah.
Even if you've been recently divorced, I think there's nothing wrong with spending your last years with someone if that is something that you are open to doing.
I don't think it's for everyone, though.
You don't?
I respect people that choose to, they just think they look at it as a piece of paper. I think it's way more special than that.
Well, that's another show, so we could discuss that at another time. But again, this one is for the newlyweds. Anyone who was just recently married, or is in the last couple of years you got married, or you feel you can work on your marriage. It's the same principles, the same advice tips that we have for you. Now, with that said, the one thing I'm going to ask for you, the reason why we wanted to do this live is to get feedback from our wonderful, intelligent community who are watching live with us. So if you are watching this as a rewatch, check out the comment section. There's probably some really good tips and advice for you all out there. Now, the one thing I'm going to ask is you just comment. I'm reading all the comments. I'm trying to read all the comments, but just comment with what you think is great advice for someone who may have just gotten married. Again, that is the principle. That is our goal for someone who's a newlywed or newly married. If they watch this, I want them to leave this video feeling much better and much more excited and encouraged about their marriage. All right.
Yes.
Franny, do you want to start it off? You are the smarter of the two. Do you want to start it off with some advice?
Can you say that again?
I know. Okay. You are the smarter of the two when it comes to this topic. No, what do you say, Franny? What do you say? Do you want to go in order? How do you want to do this?
No, I don't think that there necessarily is an order, but I do feel like people forget the little nuggets. For women, I think the little nuggets is what matters the most. You've heard like men are simple creatures, but so are women. We don't want a lot. And I think I'll do something that we still work on in our marriage that actually really, I don't want to say it can make or break my day. That's not true. It can, make me look at you in a different way, in a more sweet, kind, he's thinking about me, is the kitchen trash.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, okay. We're starting very specific.
We had this discussion yesterday, and even Rio was involved.
Okay.
I think you kind of tune him out with his little ad libs. Yesterday, I had cleaned a lot, wanted to chill afterwards. And so the trash was full. And I said, honey, this is something I really never want to do if you're home. And Rio's like, yeah, Dad, Mom should never have to take out the trash.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's the simple things that matter most.
Simple things. Okay. The simple things matter the most, I think, to women and men.
Okay. So we have simple things such as take out the trash. So basically, from a husband's perspective, simple things for the women, for the wife, goes a long way. Simple things.
So far.
Okay.
You can make our week. Oh. Honestly.
Okay.
Honestly, you can.
There we go. Who knew taking out be so important?
It's really important.
I'm going to start with one that I know is incredibly important as well, and that is respect. as Adrian says, number one thing you have to do is have respect for one another. It goes a long way. I am a firm believer that respect is the key to a wonderful marriage. You have to respect your partner. You have to respect their goals, their plans, their family, their traditions.
Yeah.
You have to respect everything that made them them. There may be things you don't care about or don't know if you like, but you have to respect it. I also think you have to respect what other people say. So anytime you're
Not just anyone.
okay, no, I meant to say your significant other
Okay.
says. Respect the words that they are choosing to use. Respect what they're saying to you. Respect.
I think where a lot of couples get this wrong as well is that, like, respect for me also, it also means never calling each other out of your names. Like, disrespect is, I feel like once you go down that road, it's hard to turn back. So even calling someone a bad name or saying something really mean that you don't really mean inside, I think that's gotta be on the table, that you cannot ever do that.
Mm,
And I feel like we've done pretty well with that. We play around, we joke around,
mm.
but we try to really respect each other. And like yelling and all that, obviously relationships are going to do that, but that's not something we really do.
No.
We don't
No.
yell at each other.
Christelle says accepting your partner's faults, forgiving their mistakes, above all, respect.
I agree. Respect is really up there. And respect is different, I think, for each person as well.
Trisha says you will disagree, but remember to do it respectfully. I think
Mhm.
that's key. I mean, we're all different. We all have different tastes, different, thoughts, different ideas of what the future is. You may have disagreements. You may not see eye to eye, but you need to respect the other person's opinions. That's so important.
I have another little one too.
Oh, okay.
That I'm trying to come in with the little ones that we kind of all forget about. I think, like maybe dressing up for each other,
Oh,
like going on a date night. You and I, we don't care about that as much, but I really do try to do that for you at least once a month.
I have to say, I love it when you do that.
Yeah. So I feel like you do appreciate it. And I feel beautiful when I do it. I feel good when I do it. So why I do it for myself and for you.
Yeah.
So I think those little things are important as well. We can't forget it. Like, we fell in love with each other. So you got to keep that flame going.
This is another one that the community says is never go to bed angry with one another. Also, in my marriage, I had to grow into not yelling. And Nicole wants to add, my husband and I also have a rule whereby we don't go to bed mad at each other. This forces us to thrash any issues out, no matter how uncomfortable the subject may be.
So I love this, Nicole, because TJ and I still are working on this. So, I'm stubborn. He's stubborn. And sometimes we're like, yeah, it's just better left unsaid for now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for us, we have to be ready to talk about things.
So I think that the beautiful and the powerful thing about not going to bed mad at each other is it forces communication.
Yeah.
Because sometimes in a marriage, you may not want to communicate with that person. You may be frustrated. You may not want to see that person. It actually has happened where there's times where
Has it?
no, not really.
For me, it has.
Not really. But yeah, I'm sure it has the other way. But my point is there's times where you don't want to open up to another person for whatever reasons. And that is a dangerous way to think and be comfortable with as a married couple. So really, really, really try to fight against that. As Sabrina says, communication is the key. Talk about everything. Now, women generally like to talk a lot more than men. Men often like to bottle their thoughts up and not really open up.
You don't listen half the time anyway.
Okay. Do we have to be so aggressive towards men right now?
No, but I'm just saying, like, you got to understand who they are. I know who you are. I know you're not a big talker. And like, if I say something, I might have your attention for maybe 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So I got to get it out.
Yeah.
Because by then you're on to other thoughts and other things that you have to do. I know that about you.
How about this? Jennifer says communication, respect, and being willing to meet each other halfway is key.
Absolutely. You have to be able to bend. Compromise is huge in a relationship, in marriage, for
So
sure.
we can gladly, because this is one I didn't really think of, but it's very true. Compromise.
You have to compromise.
Because I think a lot of times people just think they can have everything their way. So when you do decide to marry and spend your life with a significant other, you are compromising.
Well, it's not all about yourself anymore. You're a team now. There is no I or me, it's we, us. You got it. That's got to be the new term. You can't, it's not all about yourself. Now, saying that though, you don't want to forget about your individual self either. Like, you like to do certain things, and I respect that. And I feel like if you don't get to read or you don't get to do your yoga, those are things that like can make you kind of off for the day. So those are things I want to respect that you do, and you should be able to just go do that. Oh, movies, another thing. You love to go to the movies alone.
I do.
So some people may take offense to that. I feel like it's like a stress reliever for you.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. It allows my mind to just go away, and I really do enjoy it. Okay, so and then Cece says trust, patience, and respect.
Patience is huge.
So talk about patience for a second, Frances.
I just think that you've taught me how to be more patient, because you have such a calm demeanor. So I didn't grow up in a calm household. We were yellers and screamers, and I mean, it was loud all the time. And so when I met you and you guys, like, even if you were upset, I don't even know if like you really, it was hard to tell whether you were upset or not, because you kind of stayed the same. But I do think that you have to have patience. That's really important. You taught me that. I've always kind of been a chill person, but a lot of times when things don't go your way or you disagree on something, it's easy to get hot and heated.
MJ fans respect your significant other's boundaries. What's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think that's huge. In the beginning, we had some issues with boundaries, and it could have been a little bit my fault too, because I didn't really speak up saying that really bothered me, because it didn't bother you. Certain things didn't bother you. And I was like, why? Like, why doesn't that bother you? And you're just like, yeah, it is what it is, which can be frustrating too, because it makes it seem like they don't care. But I just think it's your personality.
Sarah says, yes, have your own routines, interests, and friends. I'm all about that freedom and trust.
Yes.
Thoughts?
Yes. I mean, freedom and trust is huge. I had to learn that coming out of the relationship that I came from. Yeah, I had to learn to re-trust again, because I never really had that before. It took me a good 10 years, I think, to trust you.
Blade says space. It's vital. Being up under each other all the time isn't the most healthy thing.
I think it's unhealthy, actually, because then you're losing your individual self. I love you. I like to, if I'm going to spend time with someone, it's you or the kids that I would love to spend time with. But at the same time, I love me time.
What is you time?
Ooh, going upstairs with a glass of wine, watching a show, maybe a Dateline 2020, some Netflix. That's like, I feel like I'm in bliss. Honestly, just me time. What about you?
For what?
What's your you time?
We just talked about this. Movies, reading. I think those are the main two. It used to be video games, but I don't really play those as much. So there you go.
You don't. I think this is another thing that we've worked out over the years that you've kind of gotten better with, but you still aren't 100% on this. Making decisions together.
Okay, talk to me.
I think it could be simple. It could be as simple as what the kids are going to do for the day. Just making decisions together, it makes you a team.
And that's very important. Obviously.
It's very important.
Doris says, what about cooking? They say the way to a man's heart is his stomach. I
think for most men, yes. But I think some men can cook nowadays too.
Okay. I just, let me try to answer this. As a man, as a husband, it is very sweet and very, without being conscious, a very strong, it's not just an attractive thing, but it's a very nurturing thing that a man feels when his significant other cooks. So I think this is a big one. I think Franny's right that it used to be even bigger because nowadays men aren't cooking are cooking a lot more. There's fast food, there's food, it's food. Fast food and eating out has become so acceptable in today's society that it's not as um, you know, it's not as uncommon to go a day or two without eating out, I think, or without eating in, whatever. Either way, the fact that cooking is that much more precious and special. I think everyone should try to cook for the other and for the family. I mean, I'm a terrible cook.
I would still
But-
love for you to cook for me.
But if I cook for you and the family, would it make you happy?
Absolutely.
Okay.
100%.
Okay. Let's go to a bigger and badder thing. Oh, by the way, Carrie says men who cook are attractive.
I agree, Carrie.
Okay, let's go to another big one, and that is something that I don't think you all expected to be mentioned, but that is definitely gratitude. You got to be thankful, and you got to express your gratitude to the other partner, and just thank them for being in your life. We all like to be appreciated. We all like to be
that's
heard.
your love language.
You think that's my love language?
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe. Maybe.
Affirmations.
But I think sometimes, especially in today's world, we get so down on ourselves. We get so depressed so quickly that we can turn into a funk quickly, and that can spill over to our relationship and our marriage. So one way I think you can combat this and fight against this is to practice gratitude within yourself. Even if you say what you are thankful for, whether it's
waking up in the morning,
a pair of shoes you received, a meal, whatever it is, just practice gratitude because it will uplift your spirits, which will uplift your union. So that is something that I think isn't mentioned a lot, but is super important, is gratitude. Obviously, like I just said, it uplifts yourself, but by uplifting yourself, you're uplifting half of the union. And if you're in a good mood, what's the word? It's contagious.
It's contagious, yeah.
It's contagious. So try to take care of yourself in the gratitude realm, and it will affect your marriage in a very wonderful way.
I agree. Because I feel like we show each other appreciation.
Like, you don't get down a lot. You're not a depressed person by any means. And I think that's one of our biggest secrets for our marriage, to be honest. I get down more than she is. I dwell on things a lot more than Francis does. And if we both were like that, just really
that would not be good.
Or more so, because I've come a long way.
We've come a long way.
I've come a long way, but you've always had this really steady, optimistic viewpoint in life and gratefulness that I think has really kept our marriage at a certain quality level. So that's one that I think is very strong. Is there one of those that because you had some good ones on this list that you wanted to talk about?
I think I'm trying to pick the ones that kind of we've worked on, and we didn't have it together in the beginning, but we've kind of mastered those almost. Is prioritizing your person. Like, to me, this is so important, and it can be something so simple to do. Just to, like, there's been situations where, it's hard. Your partner wants to know that you have their back, right? And I think for you, that's never been an issue because you always felt like I had your back. And I don't feel like you do it on purpose, but there's been times where I'm like, whoa, like, you got to back me up on this one, or you got to put me before that other person, or before I truly believe that once you prioritize your relationship, then everything else kind of falls into place. Do you know what I mean? Even before yourself sometimes. So prioritizing your person's really important.
Love this comment by Blade. I'm going to guess Blade is a male. And it feels good to have a male comment on this. But Blade says, U.S. males tend to be a little more straight to the point conversation-wise. It's not so much we don't listen as it's more land the plane and get to the main subject of the story. With love, LOL. Okay, Blade, I'm digging you. So you got to comment more on our lives because I like your sense of humor and I like the where you're coming from with your mind.
I
So
agree with that, but I know that about him, Blade. I'm not a big talker anyway. I'm really not.
okay, but what's your opinion on this? Because I think a lot of men do get blamed for not listening, and it's not that we don't want to listen. It's just
You
you got to
tune
land.
out.
You got to land the plane.
Well, some women are talkers,
So
and it's best that you know that about your woman.
see,
You know that about your woman, and you listen to her. If that matters to her, and she's a talker, I am not a talker like that.
yeah.
We don't. I mean, we'll go a day without, I don't know, maybe having a real conversation, and I'm okay with that.
Sabrina says, and little gifts, not expensive, just the gesture. A flower you found on your way, for example.
You used to do that a lot, not so much anymore, but even simple things like picking me up from the airport, TJ would get me like a little rose and my favorite candy, which is dark chocolate almonds.
Mm-hmm.
That's so sweet.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
You miss it?
Yes, I do.
I got you, friend.
But I don't travel that much.
Fatma says, should spouses tell each other everything and not have any secrets for each other?
Okay. So I'm going to speak from a woman's perspective on this. Women, we want to know everything. We do. We're nosy. Let's be honest. We need to know the down and dirty or not. I mean, whatever it is, we want to know. Guys are not like that. Y'all don't think, and half the time, once you've heard that information, you've already forgotten about it 10 minutes later. So I've had to subscribe to what TJ does because, yes, I want to know everything, but he's not going to tell me everything. And that's just the way it is. And I have to respect that because when someone tells you a secret, you're very good at keeping that secret.
Well, I respect that it's a secret. And I probably also forget.
But I feel like with partners, you should be able to confide in each other.
You should be able to confide whenever it's chosen. But I think MJ Fan says respect your significant
So should
other's
you
boundaries.
tell each other everything?
Not everything. I really don't think so. There's things that I haven't told Frances because if it's bad news or sad news, why bring her down? If it's not going to change anything.
But I disagree with that.
And I don't want to burden you.
But I disagree with that.
Maybe.
Because your burdens are my burdens.
I get that. But
and we're a team.
I will let you know about our burdens if my burdens are your burdens, which I agree with. I will let you know about our burdens.
But you don't.
When it makes sense to. There's certain things that I don't think. I'm not saying you should be keeping a lot, but I think there's a couple of things that if it's.
I think you should tell each other. I think you should tell each other. I don't want to say everything because that's strong, but if it's affecting you in a way, tell each other.
All right. Well, there you go. I think this one's tough, but I think this is something you should communicate and discuss. It's very, very important. Okay. I think the other thing that we need to talk about that is a big one, and then we can kind of go. We did talk about communication, right?
Yes.
We did. And respect.
Mm-hmm.
And gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, those are three big ones for me.
But I got some other ones.
Another one that I think is important is what Richard's saying. Family that prays together stays together. Very important for me personally. I'm sorry, it's not Richard. It's Georgina who's texting or commenting from Richard's account. And then April says prayer life is very important to me. And Dara says always pray in your relationship.
I agree with those guys.
Now. Obviously, for anyone who's religious or has a spiritual, cares about their spirituality, understands this. But why is it important for someone who isn't religious or doesn't have any spiritualness in their life? Why is praying together important for them?
Well, if that's not something they do, then I don't feel like that's for them.
Okay. I tend to think everyone should pray. I don't care if you're not religious or not. You should pray. There's something that's I truly
even speaking to the universe.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's something about sending out good energy beyond yourself. I think
go ahead.
I feel like it's a very closed mentality to just assume that speaking or praying or being spiritual or being more than just yourself. I feel it's a very narrow way to think. I'm not saying it's the wrong way, but I think there is something that benefits our mind, body, and souls when we see more than just us. So
Yes.
I think from the very religious, praying absolutely, to someone who may not be religious, just being able to relieve yourself in terms of relinquish your power on yourself is a very important concept.
Yeah, we just had this conversation the other night because TJ seemed like something was on his mind. He didn't really want to talk about it, and I said, "Honey, I just feel like if you pray about it, then that's going to help you, and you'll either find the answer, but if anything, you'll feel better."
Yeah,
And I think that's really
and I
important because
did.
I go to sleep praying every single night.
Trisha says, try to learn your partner's love language. Love language, 5 love languages. It's a book by Gary Chapman, I believe.
What are the 5 love languages? Affirmation,
Affirmations,
what's
gifts,
gifts?
words of appreciation.
Seems like affirmation.
It does seem like affirmations.
I don't know all of them.
Listening, right?
I don't know. Is that
Okay,
one?
I don't know. We obviously don't know the love languages off the top
I
of
know
our head.
I feel like your love language is affirmation.
Um,
Affection is one. I think that might be my love language.
Well, anyways, it's a great book by Gary Chapman, I believe. We'll put it in the description box if you want to order it. But I do suggest you reading it with your significant other and figuring out what your love language is, as well as your partner's love language. And I think it can really help those who may be struggling to feel love or to even give love, how to show that you love someone. That book can really help you because there are certain things that certain people value more when it comes to gestures and ways of showing affection and love. And that's a really good book. So as Trisha says, try to learn your partner's love language.
I agree. It's a good one.
By the way, Carrie also says, listen to each other with an open mind. We didn't mention this comment before, right?
No.
Okay. This is a must. You may not know, you may think you know everything or may know your partner completely well, but keep an open mind. Ask questions. Be interested. Super, super important. Franny, will you read this super chat from Renee? By the way, thank you so much, Renee. Appreciate it.
So Renee Allen says, hello to you both. How did you both bring up marriage to each other? And when is a good time to bring it up in a relationship? Okay. So I think that I finally brought it up. I want to say we kind of started talking about it in 2005, maybe.
Yeah.
So that was like 7 years into our relationship.
I think it was after one of my close friends got married. And I think you get to a point in life when you start going to a lot of your friends' weddings.
Yes.
And then you start discussing it and you start talking about it and you start seeing your significant other in a different way. So I don't know the specific date, but I can say the first 5 or so years, it wasn't on my radar. I didn't want to not be with Frances, but it just wasn't on my mind. Maybe as a female, it was on her mind.
Oh, yeah.
She was coming out of a divorce and I was coming from a mindset where I didn't want to get married. So it wasn't something that we were, jumping to. But in time, that's what happened. It naturally happened. And like I said in the beginning, for someone who didn't believe they ever wanted to be married, I am so happily married and so feel so fortunate that I am married. So
I think also, like, to answer her question, I feel like everyone has a time. And if you're really connected to that person, I feel like we could have got married, in the first year and it still would have been great. But because you were terrified of it, you got to give each other time. But I feel like after 2 years of being with someone, you should kind of know. And I think having that conversation is not a bad idea. It doesn't mean you need to get married and engaged in 2 years. But what I'm saying is having that conversation so you know where this person stands. Because I know people that have been with someone for 10 years and then all of a sudden the other person's like, yeah, I don't think this is for me. I would be very hurt by that. And look, you don't want to look at it as wasted time, but I think it's a little harder for women because, we do have that clicking, what is it? The ticking clock, basically. And, when you're wanting to have babies and stuff like that. So those are things that women have to think about.
Another thing that I saw on your phone, Frances, was date nights.
Yeah, those are a given.
Tell me, I'm going to add to date nights, and also trips.
I have another good one, so don't let me forget that one.
We used to not really take date nights or go on trips because our lives were so inundated with plans and kid scheduling.
But to be honest, it's because our kids were in like higher performing sports and our weekends were taken up.
Yeah.
We were either traveling and staying in a hotel or, that Saturday, Sunday, that was it. So we really didn't have that kind of time because our kids either had practice or games.
I think this is something that's very important, especially for the American. I think it's for everyone now, but I just know I can speak on American. I know what my friends are going through. See, we've been through all that where we're literally our schedules are every afternoon is filled with scheduling for our kids. And you got to be careful with that because you can't just you got to remember to take care of your relationship with your significant other. Your kids are going to come and go. Literally, they're going to come into be the main focus of your life, and then they're going to go and.
But they shouldn't be the main focus.
But let's be honest.
Be.
Maybe they shouldn't, but they often are.
But they shouldn't be.
But they often are.
You have that control. We had to learn that the hard way, though.
But what I'm saying is, whether it's school, extracurricular activities, there's so many activities we do for our kids that oftentimes when you're done with those activities, you just want to lay down. You just want to just
chill,
just turn everything off. But you cannot forget about your significant other. And like Francis said, we had to develop that skill. We had to get better at that from the get-go, from the beginning of our relationship. We had kids and had schedules. So now, even though we still have our young kids and still have crazy schedules, we also plan trips. We also go out.
Have something to look forward to.
It's so important.
Even if it's a picnic on the weekend, you guys, it's not like you need money to go and like do these extravagant things. It's just simple things to reconnect. And I was talking to someone recently and I was like, oh, hey, how's your wife? And he's like, yeah, no, we got a divorce. And I was shocked. Because it seemed like they had such a strong marriage. But what he was saying is, he said, we forgot to communicate and put each other first over the years. And I thought that was so sad because you could tell he was hurt by it, but the damage had already been done because they tried to rekindle it and fix it and do counseling and all that, but they grew apart. You grow apart if you allow yourself to stop communicating with each other and prioritizing each other. That's very, very important. And when I say the kids shouldn't be the center of everything, they really shouldn't, because before your children, you have a relationship with each other. You're raising these children and then they're gone and out of the house. And then you have each other and you're like, yeah, I don't really connect with this person. And I don't really like them after all anyway. So those things happen if you forget to communicate along the way and prioritize yourselves along the way, because kids, it's a lot that goes into them.
Deborah's informing us the 5 love languages.
Thank you, Deborah.
Words of affirmations, gifts, quality time, acts of service, and physical touch.
Ooh, I got 2 then.
Cece says, hi, TJ and Francis. What piece of advice would you give to your just married self?
That's what we're talking about, Cece.
There's a list of the advice, but I think it's all of these. I really do. I think, but if you want to get real personal for me, it would be to enjoy the moment. It's a lot harder for men, I think, to understand that concept, especially those who may be incredibly busy or ambitious or just all over the place.
Be careful with that, though. Be careful with that, because look, we all hear, these famous people. Let's just take Steve Jobs for an example. He had so much money, so much success, but he says he would trade it all just to be able to live and be with his family. And to me, that's so heartbreaking that you forget about that because you're so driven to be successful and build this business, but people suffer. You suffer, your family suffers. I'm not saying don't have drive. I'm just saying have a balance, because that's not everything.
There's been some other good comments that I want to share.
Did you do those other ones up there, babe?
Sandy says, I'm telling others about you. Hope you don't mind. You're too cool for me to keep to myself. That's so
Oh,
cool.
I love that, Sandy.
That's very sweet, Sandy. And please, yes, please do. Fatma says, advice, please. What if one spouse works on themselves and grows and the other doesn't at all? What to do then? Be patient and grateful?
That's a good one, Fatma.
And yeah, so what's your opinion on that?
Um, Look, I think patience is key because I'm going to tell you, TJ and I had different backgrounds. We really did. We had different upbringings. We looked at the world differently. And I had to be really patient with him because had I not been, then I don't think our relationship would have survived. I saw that you were raised different, that we had different backgrounds, but I saw the goodness in you. So that gave me the motivation to say, you know what, this is a great guy. I'm going to stick it out with him until I have a reason not to. Even though it took your butt 9 years to finally, for us to finally get married, I just felt like it was worth it. It was worth being patient for. It was worth the wait.
Francis, okay, and this is another important thing, and then we're going to wrap up soon, but this is another important thing. Deborah says each marriage is unique.
Yes.
And where I want to go with this is that oftentimes, whether it's marriages we see on TV, marriages we see on YouTube, marriages we see in our neighborhood, marriages we see from our kids' teams, oftentimes we compare ourselves to others, even with marriages, and that's something that you have to avoid. Marriages go through phases, go through ups and downs, and if we're just going to compare our marriage, which may be in a difficult phase, to someone's marriage who's in the best phase they've had in years, it may seem like ours has no hope or ours is more damaged, and that is something you have to avoid doing.
I think when you're younger, you do that a lot. And then you realize as you grow with each other that your marriage is unique and it's not going to be like anyone else's. So I feel like in the beginning, when you see a more successful marriage, it's easy to compare yourself. But I just feel like that you don't ever want to do that.
Yeah.
You really don't.
Some of your comments I'm going through right now are so great, y'all. I just don't. I wish it was we're trying to keep it more on topic and more specific, and I don't want this to be too long. But here's a super chat, a very generous one from Brandon.
Thank you, Brandon.
Who's also a super member. And for our members, a new post is going to be in the next hour for a new bonus content video. Vlog. So, okay, Franny, you want to read this?
Yeah, Brandon says relationships in general can be a difficult challenge when all feelings are not mutual from the start. I've seen many heartbreaks in my life, including myself, and it's hard to try to start over and open up to the next. Brandon, this is 100% true because that was me. Again, you were patient with me because had you not been patient with me, I don't feel like we would have worked. There was a time where in the beginning, TJ told my best friend, who was actually the reason why TJ and I are together. He's like, I don't think she likes me. I don't think you remember saying this.
I don't.
But it's because I just wasn't very affectionate. I was I had a wall up, standoffish, because I was like, okay, this guy's too good to be true. You know, I had this label on men because of what I had went through. Now, granted, it was probably my only real relationship that I had to evidence of how relationships were supposed to be. Well, come to find out, I'm happy that you taught me that no, not all men are like that. Not all men are going to cheat. So for me, I feel like you were very patient with me as well.
That's cool. And I don't remember that, but I can see that happening, if that makes sense, because I was used to a different person type of girl.
Oh, for sure.
And you were very different than that. You were very more chilled.
Yeah, I was not going to just go up and hug him or my previous relationship. I can count on one hand how many times we actually held hands together. It wasn't very affectionate.
Carrie, by the way, I'm gonna get to that, Lamont, but Carrie says no marriage is perfect.
That is very
Very true.
true.
And then Lamont says, "Hey, King TJ and Queen Franny J, I have mixed feelings about getting married. Me being in my mid 20s, 25 to be exact. What advice would you give to me to finally be ready to marry my significant other?"
I honestly think, Lamont, that it has to be something within yourself. It can't be something that someone else is telling you. It really has to be your decision, because which I want to get to resentfulness as well, because I think that's huge in a marriage, in any relationship. I think that it has to be your choice, your decision, and not being pushed into it. I feel like when you want to spend the rest of your life with someone. You, for you can maybe elaborate on that, of why it takes you so long to like give yourself to that one person that you love.
For me, I mean, like I said, I grew up with divorce everywhere. So I was like, why go through the pain of divorce? So it was a protection thing. That's all it was. I just didn't see enough successful marriages to really aspire to be married.
Yeah.
Sandy says, "I'm afraid, Francis, I don't want to be hurt or embarrassed by going through another divorce."
Well, you know what, Sandy? This is what I truly believe on this, because I was divorced. It was actually not not a great divorce either. But I feel like you're not living if you don't give yourself that opportunity to find true love. And if you're getting hurt along the way, I feel like it's more than worth it. You're not living if you don't take that chance. I truly believe that. And embarrassed, don't be embarrassed. It's part of your journey. You can't take away things in your life that probably were meant to happen.
Hmm.
And it's just part of your journey and who you are. Don't ever feel ashamed or embarrassed about that. But I feel like you should live and give it a chance.
I completely agree with Francis. I'm almost hesitant to say anything more because I don't want to dilute what she just said. But the one thing I do want to say is please don't ever be embarrassed by trying for love. And if it
Yes.
leads to another divorce, it leads to another divorce. Um, I'm not saying you need to just go get married after meeting someone the next day. But what I'm saying is do not ever turn off that potential.
Don't close your heart.
Please don't.
That's
Please
not
don't.
truly living. I truly believe that if you lead with love and everything, then it's all going to be okay. And whatever happens along the way was meant to be.
Sophie, who's been a member for 16 months.
Hi, Sophie.
What's going on, Sophie? Sophie says, "Hi, TJ and Franny. I know we are talking about marriage, but what about if someone doesn't want to get married, but the other person does?"
Yeah, I feel like we were kind of in that situation. And again, Sophie, it goes back to patience. And I just felt in my heart that TJ and I were meant to be, and it wasn't something that I was willing to just let go and give up. Now, I did say, "Look, I'm going to stop acting as your wife because I'm doing everything a wife does." And to me, that's just like after 8 years, it's like, "Yeah, okay, well, let's live separately." Because I feel like that would have satisfied myself and satisfied you.
I think for a lot of men, it's so tough because society doesn't do all of us a favor sometimes. We harp on the negative relationships. We'll see guys getting abused and I'm saying from a man's perspective, used, thrown out, whether they lose custody or have to pay a lot of money in support. So those kind of narratives really turn us off of the idea. It's like, why would we want to get married? I think, though, if you find that person who in their heart is a great person who hasn't showed any of those tendencies, it's easier to open up to being okay with the idea of thinking about marriage because it first starts of idea. If you are with someone and marriage is super, super important to you, and you're going to weddings with someone else, and you're feeling a certain way, how beautiful you want it so bad, and that person is just completely turned off by it, not listening at all, then maybe you aren't meant to be. Because I think if you go to a great wedding, what I'm trying to say, if you go to a great wedding and it's a beautiful wedding, love is in the air, families are bonding, everyone's having a good time, and you're still not seeing or feeling any of that love, then I don't know. I don't know if marriage is important to you. I don't know if you should stay in that relationship. I'm just being honest, because
Yeah,
what
it's
I don't
important.
want is you to be 60, 70 years old and marriage is still equally as important, and now you're feeling like that time is came and went. So I will never tell anyone to split up on this, but at the same time, if you don't feel like that significant other who is against it is making at least a concession of understanding why, the appeal of it, then I would reconsider. And I'm not saying you have to have a big wedding or a wedding, but there's something about going to a wedding and seeing the bond
Yeah,
of two people that's very powerful. And even if you don't believe in marriage, I think a man who believes in love can see.
I agree with that. Well
Um,
said, honey.
okay, and then let's see what else. This is a good comment from Trisha. Will you read this one, Franny?
Trisha says, women don't see everything, or rather don't complain about everything you dislike. It's hard sometimes, Trisha.
So what's your
But
thoughts?
I do agree with this. I'm not a complainer. I've seen women nag, and ooh. And look, there's a difference between telling somebody what you want and what is important to you and just nagging all the time. Now, like what I tell TJ, I don't want to sit here and nag you about taking out the trash. I've already told you that it's important to me. If you don't listen, then that's on you. And if I'm moody that day and you see a trash bag in my hand, you should know why. But 9 times out of 10, he's not going to remember. So you have gotten better with it. But I have to also remember different backgrounds. TJ didn't grow up taking out trash.
Yeah.
So when I first met him, I was like, hey, like, do you mind taking out the trash? And he kind of was like, oh, yeah, I'll do it. But it did seem very foreign to you.
It was foreign.
So I was like, dang, you don't take out the trash?
It was very foreign. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, we grew up in different places, so it was definitely foreign.
So saying that though, I wanted to get to being resentful toward each other. And I feel like women, we carry this burden more so than men. There's a song that I love. And in the song, it says, bitterness keeps you from flying. And I truly, truly believe, I live by that motto, because if you're bitter inside, you can't soar your wings. You can't just live in a lovely state of mind. So if they do something to you, talk about it, but move past it. I'm not saying forget, because women, we never forget. We all know that. But don't hold that resentfulness. Have more compassion for each other, and maybe try to teach each other. Don't just be like, oh, he doesn't do that, or complain about it. Sit down and talk in a loving way, and I feel like you're going to get heard way more than if you're just giving attitude and nagging about it.
Did we do this comment?
We did.
Really?
Yep.
I remember putting Brandon's.
So yeah, but he was asking how to, including myself, and it's hard to try to start over and open up to the next. But it's just like we were telling the other one. I don't remember her name, but you want to live. You don't want that one person or that one bad experience or 3 bad experiences to stop you from truly loving. Because I do truly believe in my soul that there's someone out there for everyone.
I agree.
I truly believe that.
And I'm a believer. I'm a converted believer. There's something that's very powerful about love. And I don't want to say you have to rush it. I don't want you to think that you can't live a great life being single, being on your own. That's obviously true.
I like this one.
But I also feel that being open, you never know what's the next phase of our life, the next chapter. And sometimes things can happen, and you look back 5 years, and if you held on to a very strict, narrow mindset, you may have deprived yourself of another stage of your life.
There's good women and there's good men out there.
Cece says, I agree. Every marriage is different because everyone is different. Do you think what it means to be a good wife or husband has changed over the time you've been together?
Absolutely.
Okay, expand on this.
We talk about this actually, even with Royal, even though he's 24, we've talked about this, and he's like, he feels like his generation, they don't have the same qualities that my generation has, or me as a wife and a mother have. Um, I do feel like a lot of girls are, it's more focused on their careers and their
Mm,
education, which I'm not saying that they shouldn't, because I do feel like it's also, let's just say you have something to fall back on. Let's just say you want to be a mom that stays home and raises her children, which to me is the hardest job in the world. It truly is. There's no recognition in it. You're not getting paid for it. It does pay you back later in life, though. But I feel like it has changed, and even men have changed. Young men have changed in being a husband. I mean, I hear more young people say, "Yeah, I don't know if I'm getting married," or "Yeah, I don't know if I'm having kids."
mm.
Do you feel that?
I do, and I think it's
Yeah.
sad. But I think this is where society and social media has really done a number on us. We've kind of forgotten the importance of union and the power when 1+1 can get together and love each other. And I feel blessed and lucky I was able to see the light, so to say, because a lot of people aren't. Again, I don't want to say if someone's watching this who doesn't believe in marriage or doesn't want to be married, I'm not going to say you're wrong. I just want you to be open to seeing the other side. Start with being open. And yes, so for anyone like this is about being married and being a newlywed. For anyone who's watching, it maybe has changed a bit, but I would advise both of you to look back at traditions, older marriages, to see why they may have been more successful, see how they could have been better,
And we can also learn from our parents' marriage as well,
and our
because
grandparents.
it was different then. Like, your feelings didn't really matter. And I feel like it's evolved in a better way now, because now I feel like men are also more emotional, more willing to talk about their feelings, which I love. Um, but I do feel like I look at older marriages and it was like, no, you don't have time to cry. Like your feelings really weren't validated.
Yeah.
And if your husband pissed you off or did something, it was like, oh well.
I think for any newlyweds out there, if you have parents that are successfully married, or grandparents or uncles, aunts, talk with them. Go out
Talk
to
with
eat
them,
with them
ask
and
them
ask them
questions.
questions, and here's the thing, because them being in your life, being a family member, whenever you see them, you're going to really see what they told you. You're going to see, and it's going to be a constant reminder in your own marriage of that. They're going to represent that important quality to you. So I think it's very important, and I think that's what would help a lot of young new married couples out a lot, is if they talk with older family, married, or friends, whatever. Just but be open to that. Be a student. There's
Our
nothing wrong
elders
with
are
that.
more wise.
There's
So
nothing wrong
remember
with
that.
that. Do we read Blade's comment? This one?
Nope.
Will you read this one for me?
Sure. Blade says, hold yourselves and each other accountable. Mistakes happen in relationships. Own up to them and don't hold those mistakes against your partner after apologizing, depending on the situation. I do agree with that, Blade. That's a good statement, which goes back to being resentful. Yes, you're gonna kind of hurt each other along the way, but when I say hurt, it's not like someone's like a serious thing, like cheating, or I mean, I think that's a pretty bad one, actually, is cheating. So what we're saying is just like little things, like don't hold the resentment, have more compassion, lead with love. And I really feel like when you prioritize each other, then you're more likely to have a successful relationship for sure.
This is a very cool, or it's a question. You mind reading this one for me?
Okay. Sarah says it's okay if you guys don't have time to answer this. Aw. Wondering how you navigated being newlyweds while one or both were grieving significant losses.
This is a whole nother thing. I think you just got to be there for each other. I mean, within 3 months of me and Frances meeting and being together, she lost her father. And I think as long as you have the heart and care for that other person, you should be that support system for them. You should be there to check on them and try to ease their mind and relieve any pressures they have. So I don't think significant loss in some ways, I think it can actually increase a relationship.
It can make you stronger.
It can make
bring you together.
Absolutely. So I wouldn't necessarily put much attention on significant loss in terms of a relationship. Like I said, you can really see a different side of that person too.
Yeah, because I'll tell you this, 3 months in, I was not ready for TJ to meet my family. I love my family, but I was like, oh, well, it's happening. There's no going back now. And I just remember my brother-in-law saying, like, are you sure you want to do this? They're kind of crazy. And he's like, you always, Santos.
Yeah. Your brother-in-law?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
He's my brother-in-law.
Yeah.
And he's like, they're kind of crazy.
To me.
You still have time to get out.
I thought he was
now.
joking.
He was still, a bit, but he was a little serious.
And still to this day, he mentions it. And I said, I should have listened, Santos.
No, you don't.
It's all fun, though. Okay, we have a couple more comments because I wanted to keep this under an hour.
So, yeah, Sarah, I feel like it can bring you closer together. Just being there for each other. So I'll tell you, when my father passed, it was on Christmas Day, and I was supposed to be going with TJ and spending time with his family. We were going to do some games or something like that. So I had my best friend call him and say, hey, like, please let him know that I have to cancel. And that, I was even scared to tell him why, because I didn't want him to have to stop his day and come to me. But what you did was, I said, look, I just want to be alone. Just tell him we'll hang out another time. But he ended up coming to my house and just kind of holding me. He didn't say anything. He was just basically like, I'm here if you need me. And you just held me the whole time. And I thought that was really sweet.
That's cool. That's very
so
cool.
It made me like really, I think that's when I really fell in love with you, by the way.
That's really cool, friend.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have a couple super chats to get through. Then we're going to close. Bommy, who says, I'm marrying myself. I'm tired of waiting, y'all.
Come on, Bobby. You have a lot to offer, girl. Not giving up yet.
Sophie from Bommy saying, I'm going to marry myself. Same comment. This time she wanted to make sure we knew about that. So Sophie did the super chat. And then we have Maya, who says, Maya. Marriage is about duty and family. Each couple is different, each marriage too. You build it to suit your union. My advice, do not get married just to have a wedding. It's a life commitment and a covenant.
Amen
I
to that,
completely agree, Maya. I think a lot of people see the wedding. They see the fantasy of the wedding. It's more than that.
It's way more than that.
It's more than that. Don't get me wrong. A wedding is a beautiful day. It's the day filled with love. It will probably be your most memorable day when you are married. Saying that, though, it's more than that. Do not just get married because you want a great wedding. You are marrying a person for life. Mm-hmm. So great comment. I think it's a good one to end on. Anything else you want to say, Francis?
No, I think that's it.
We want to end with two more, actually, where April says balance is important in a relationship. Very true. And Alika says, hey, love living and learning. Thank you so much for all the advice.
You're so welcome. Thank you guys for listening.
Thank you for joining,
tuning in.
And also thank you for tuning in and commenting and sharing your opinions. And I want to just say anything to any newlyweds out there. There's going to be ups and downs. Don't just think it's your life is now easy, or don't just think your life is made. There's going to be ups and downs.
Remember that the tougher moments make you stronger. They really do.
Remember why you married someone in the first place. No matter how annoying they could be, how frustrating life can be, how disappointing something can be, remember the reason why you said I do in the first place.
And lead with love and compassion.
All right, that is it. Adios, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Love you guys.